So now the Pentagon has finally confirmed that there have been attacks on U.S. bases in Syria and in Iraq this week. Now, if you've been watching my channel, this is no big surprise. I've been reporting to you all about this for days now, but they have officially confirmed 13 attacks, 10 in Iraq, 3 in Syria. And keep in mind, this is just what they're willing to confirm. And it took them almost an entire week to confirm this information. And I've been reporting on this for days now. But officially confirmed 13 attacks. And there's been more attacks since the Pentagon put out this information. But here's what we didn't know. There's been injuries. All the information I've been seeing information about attacks, but supposedly we were shooting down the drones and the rockets. But apparently there were, I believe, 24 injuries. Luckily, no casualties, no deaths. But there has been some injuries. I'm going to go ahead and dive right into this article that provides a little more information. 24 American military personnel were wounded last week in a series of drone attacks at American bases in Iraq and Syria, U.S. Central Command has revealed. The Pentagon confirmed the attacks, but the number of U.S. injuries has not been disclosed until now. 20 American personnel sustained injuries on October 18th when at least 2 one-way attack drones targeted El Tanf military base in southern Syria. One of the drones was shot down. All of the wounded personnel have returned back to duty, CENTCOM said, and there was no damage to any military installations. On the same day, another 4 American personnel suffered injuries during 2 separate drone attacks against U.S. and coalition forces stationed at Al-Assad base in western Iraq, CENTCOM said. The U.S. shot down the one-way attack drones, but the debris from one destroyed a hangar that contained a small aircraft, CENTCOM said. All of the injured personnel have since returned back to duty. Also, an American civilian contractor died during the incident, but not due to the attack. It was actually due to cardiac arrest. So, 24 injuries, and apparently some civilian contractor had a heart attack in the middle of this attack. I mean, I'm sure he was probably pretty scared, so can't really blame the guy with everything that's going on over there right now. But I think this is just a sign of what's to come. And you know, we've been having the conversation about all of these troops that we're sending to Israel for non-combat purposes. And I look at what's happening in Iraq and Syria, and you know, this is the beginning. The invasion has not even happened yet. The war hasn't even really begun yet. And the attacks on U.S. forces are already ramping up. And, you know, that's happening in Syria and Iraq. So the U.S. is going to treat that one way because we already had forces stationed over there. Now, if something were to happen to these soldiers that we're sending to Israel, that's going to be a whole nother story. Like, don't get me wrong, we're reacting to these attacks in Syria and Iraq. We're getting ready to send more troops over to Syria and Iraq. I think we just sent a squadron of fighter jets today. Yes, a squadron of F-16 fighter jets were sent to the Middle East just today. So we're responding to that as well, but I guarantee you the response will be 10 times worse if something happens to these soldiers that we're sending to Israel. And I can only imagine that something's going to happen. And maybe that's what America wants, because maybe the U.S. is just waiting on, you know, someone to lash out. They're waiting on something to give them an excuse to just go ham. You know what I mean? All of the military equipment that we've sent to the Middle East, All of these aircraft carriers, folks, we don't need that for Hamas and Gaza. We're not sending this stuff over there because of Hamas and Gaza. We're sending this stuff over there because we're ready for a bigger fight. I mean, everyone's looking at the situation between Israel and the Palestinians, Israel, Gaza, Israel, Hamas, but the situation is so much bigger than that. I've had a lot of people ask me why I word things the way I word things, because from the beginning I haven't really labeled this as a Israeli-Palestinian conflict. When I say stuff, I say Israel versus their enemies. And the reason I say enemies is because it's not Israel versus Palestinians. It's not just Israel versus Hamas. It's Israel versus almost everyone over there. Honestly, it's like Israel versus Hezbollah, Hamas, various other organizations in Syria, various other militaries. They're fighting in the West Bank. We got people from Yemen, various terrorist groups in Yemen. And over the past couple of weeks, there have been terror cells popping up that U.S. intelligence thought was over. Like, they literally thought some of these organizations didn't even exist anymore. We haven't heard from them for decades. And now all of a sudden they're rising from the ashes. All of these little organizations are rising from the ashes. I'm talking terrorist organizations that we haven't heard a single thing from, that we thought were gone and have been gone. Before I was even born, they're reappearing in the Middle East. They're all getting ready for something big. So the reason I word things the way I word things, it's not to not acknowledge that, Israel's conflict with the Palestinians. It's because this conflict is so much bigger than that now. It's so much bigger than just Israel and whatever beef they have with Hamas and Gaza. If the story was just about that, you wouldn't see everyone making a big deal about it. You wouldn't see 2 aircraft carrier strike groups going to Israel for a little fight with Hamas and Gaza. So that's the reason why I word things the way I do, because I understand that this has blown up into something far bigger than just, the typical Israeli-Palestinian beef, if you will. But we have these fighter jets that we just sent to the Middle East. So not only are we sending all of these fighter jets, all of this military equipment, we got troops on the way. And I just want everyone to keep in mind, all of this stuff is happening and the real conflict hasn't even started yet. That's the scary part. Think about everything that I've reported to you all over the past 2 weeks. And the actual conflict, the real war, the invasion has not even begun. Now, just as I was sitting down to record this video, the Israeli Air Force started carrying out strikes against targets in Syria, but not just Hezbollah, not just various terrorist groups. No, they've been striking Syrian military installations and stuff. So I want to go ahead and check into that really quick, because it's just spilling over to everywhere. But the Israeli Air Force has struck military infrastructure belonging to the Syrian army. And that's happening right now as we speak. I don't have a lot of information on that yet. But before the fight has really begun, we already see that Israel has already spread itself thin. Not only were you attacking these little terrorist outlets in Syria, now you're attacking, Syrian army military bases. And you're fighting with Hezbollah, And the bombs are starting to drop deeper and deeper within Lebanon. They've been conducting these raids into the West Bank, getting in little firefights, capturing certain people. They've had raids into Gaza already. And when this invasion begins, it's going to be like door to door. You know what I mean? Like whatever buildings are left standing in Gaza, the Israeli military is going to be going door to door. Vast tunnel systems have been built underneath Gaza. They're going to have to be going into these tunnels. And it's going to be some crazy next level urban combat. Call of Duty ain't got nothing on what this is going to be like. And the longer Israel has to wait before invading, the worse things are going to be. Now, I've seen people make some good points that Israel needs to come up with a solid plan before invading. But think of this. This is my opinion. Israel should already have a plan. I understand that you always want to have a good plan, a good strategy when going to war, right? But this isn't, one country fighting another country on the opposite side of the earth. This is one small little country, like the size of New Jersey, fighting an even smaller, I don't even want to even know what to call the Gaza Strip. And in my opinion, Israel should have already had a plan just in case anything happens. I don't think Israel should have to wait a month to draw up battle plans to invade Gaza. The plans should have already been drawn up before the attack even happened. You're supposed to plan for things like this. Israel should have had a solid plan already in place in case something like this happened. Because the way things are over there, this was bound to happen eventually. So it's not like this attack was a big surprise, some unheard of thing. Don't get me wrong, it was horrible. But it wasn't this big shock. It wasn't the shock that 9/11 was. Anyone could have seen something like this coming. Both sides completely hate each other, right? So I understand that you need a good plan. My point is, though, that plan, they should have had that years ago. They should have had a solid plan on how to handle something like this years ago. Or else what's the point of having military commanders in the first place? If you're not going to have any strategies for one of the most likely scenarios that you knew your military was going to face. And it's not like it's the first time that these two sides have faced off. So when I look at the hesitation, I honestly do feel like Israel probably already had a plan. It's the U.S. that is making them stall out. And the longer they stall out, I think the worse this is going to get. But, I mean, if it's inevitable, it's inevitable. So we're just going to keep waiting. And as we keep waiting for this invasion to start, complete chaos is breaking out everywhere else around the world. And we're just watching in real time as we head down this very, very dark path. The entire world is getting drawn in to these conflicts that have very little to do with you and me. Conflicts that aren't started by regular, everyday people. Conflicts that are started by the powers that be, that run this world. And we're helplessly sitting by watching all of this stuff pop off as we are trying to peacefully live our lives. But let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. If you're feeling generous, you can drop a super thanks, or you can support my channel for totally free by sharing this video, liking this video, subscribing, ringing that notification bell. And as always, I'll talk to you all soon in the next video.